clock. So the easy mode is Food Chain plus Miss Hollow Griffin, using Manipulate Fate to get them all into exile, and then casting an Emrakul or a Tidesprout Tyrant. Then there's hard mode, which is just the value creatures you're describing, the fact that they're very hard to kill, and you're very efficient because of Food Chain. So a lot of different dimensions to this deck.
Yeah. I think the best comparison, I still think, Elves combo, where it's, it combos, but it plays Magic too. Anyway, we're underway. Job is on the play. Freerksen is on the draw. He did take a mulligan here. And we will start out with a Tropical Island from Job. And I would think that Food Chain is pretty decent, actually, against Blue-Red Delver.
Well, you still have to deal with a bunch of bolts and dazes and such that can make it hard for Job to get anything going. But as far as combo decks go, because Job isn't leaning on one card specifically, he's less susceptible to just counter spells than a lot of other combo decks in the format. If his Food Chain gets countered, it's not the end of the world, as opposed to, say, Steak and Show, where if something happens to your key piece, you have no backup plan.
Right, these cards like the Pyroblasts or Flusterstorms that Blue-Red Delver can play are not nearly as strong against a deck like Food Chain as they would be against something like Storm.
Yeah, and Sheldon appears to be pretty enthusiastic about Legacy here. Foil Onslaught Bloodstain Mire into Guru Mountain into foil Textless Lightning Bolt. A pretty strong financially opening here for him.
Yeah, he's putting that Tropical Island to shame right there. I mean, it's white bordered and all.
Yeah. A peasant's Tropical Island.
But Sheldon, turn one there, he's going to Lightning Bolt down the Deathrite Shaman. We go back to Job. Polluted Delta.
Oh, a Khan's Polluted Delta.
Wow.
Step your game up.
It's not even $20.
I know. For now.
Yes. All right, we have Underground Sea from Job. One thing is that if Sheldon opts for this removal spell to creature game plan, Job will punish him pretty well for that. His cards like Baleful Strix and Mist Hallowed Griffin are very good against removal spells.
That's the cool thing about Food Chain. He can just play the value game. I've watched Job win plenty of matches where he never fully went off. He never comboed out. Maybe he had Mist Hallowed Griffin infinitely looped and unkillable because of Food Chain, but I've seen him win matches without going through Emrakul or Tidespout Tyrant.
Baleful Strix is the play for Job. It'll draw him a card. Back to Sheldon on turn 2. Sheldon with a pair of basics now.
Guru Island.
I would expect they're all going to be really nice at this point.
Just balling out of control. I wonder if he spent his standard open winnings at the dealer booth. Had just a whole bird in his pocket.
Oh, man.
Flush after his win.
I mean, yeah, what kind of person would get Guru or Arabian Nights Mountains for their style decks, you know?
Yeah, I have both.
Yeah.
Depending on how I'm feeling.
Do one of them go, is there some kind of decks that get one and some that get the other?
Right, if I have one basic land to fetch for, I play the Guru one. Well, but if it's redundant, then I play a bunch
Burn.
of... Right.
It burns Arabian Nights.
Right, but when I was playing like 5-color Zoo in Modern, then I had a couple Guru lands because they were just singletons to fetch for.
I do different kind of things. Like, I have a set of the pre-release Jeskai Ascendancies, for example. You know, but that
not quite the same thing.
Cool. Not as cool.
I understand what you're saying.
No. Hey, those aren't that easy to track down.
That's true. And I would imagine becoming harder as the card begins to make its presence known in every format.
We have a Brainstorm here, turn 3 for Jonathan Job.
And that's the other dangerous thing about this Food Chain deck. Nothing that Job has done so far would give Sheldon the impression that anything weird was happening. He just looks like a Sultai, maybe Shardless.
It looks like Shardless right now.
Some sort of control deck. But now the jig is up.
Manipulate Fate. This is quite the odd little card. Sheldon's going to take a read on it, but a card that's very powerful in Food Chain.
So this allows Job to take any 3 cards in his deck and put them into exile, which is great with Miss Hollow Griffin. That's a combo. This is a pretty good rule of thumb. If you have to read a card your opponent plays in Legacy and you don't quite understand what's going on, you should probably counter it.
It's probably up to no good. Absolutely.
And I think Sheldon made the right call there by choosing to counter it.
I don't know what you're going to do with that exile, but I can't imagine you're playing that card if it's anything but spectacular.
No one's thinning 3 lands out of their deck with that card. That's not happening.
Second Delver of Secrets from Freerksen.
And that's why the Manipulate Fate is so powerful in this deck, and it's a testament to the dimensions of attack here. If Job is able to resolve Manipulate Fate, he could just start cranking out a sea of Misthallow Griffins that can trade with Delver of Secrets.
So we see Misthallow Griffin #1, that's cast by Job. Freerksen is going to Lightning Bolt it and now flip the Delvers. So a huge attack in the sky coming for Sheldon. He's going to swing for 6. Needed to get that Misthallow Griffin out of the way. He really didn't want that to trade with any of the Delvers.
But now, we've seen this before where everything seems like it's going okay for the combo player. Like they have a little bit of time and then the game shifts and you're looking at 2 turns till dead.
You got to kill those Delvers immediately. They're going to kill you way faster than it looks.
Now, Job does have the Misthallow Griffins we've talked about before. He also has 3 copies of Abrupt Decay in his deck, so he can kill these things.
A Brainstorm from Sheldon. He saw multiple copies of Treasure Cruise, kept 1. That's the last card in his hand. Going to crack a fetch land for Volcanic and is going to reset up with a draw 3 here. And this is what draws Blue-Red Delver into such prominence, is just how good of a Treasure Cruise deck it is.
The velocity on this deck, it's the best of the format. It just keeps churning spells over.
I'll go on a statement. I'll go on record saying that I think this is the best Treasure Cruise deck right now in Legacy.
I don't know if it's the best Treasure Cruise deck, but I think it's the best deck at maximizing Treasure Cruise because it fills up his graveyard so quickly.
Okay, I can get behind that one. Had to figure out.
Hold
on.
Not what the most powerful deck with Treasure Cruise is, but what deck maximizes Treasure Cruise the most, and I think it's this one.
Back to Jonathan's turn. He's going to Brainstorm. One of Sheldon's 3 draws was his 1 main deck Pyroblast. That figures to be pretty good here. You see Sheldon with access to a lot of cards, but he's under a lot of pressure.
If Job can get Food Chain into play, he still may be able to win through a Pyroblast, but it's going to be tough. Jonathan's just under a load of pressure.
Put 2 cards back off Brainstorm. He does have some removal. One thing that Food Chain is it's one of the few Abrupt Decay decks we still see running around here. Abrupt Decay, excellent against most Delver strategies.
Yep, 3 in Job's main deck, so that is helpful at least. And this is another synergy to keep in mind with the deck. Job can exile a Misthallow Griffin in his graveyard, 2 Deathrite Shaman to gain 2, and then be able to cast it.
Deathrite Shaman, 2 more lands, and now he will go with a copy of Food Chain. That's going to get countered.
And that's very punishing for Job to get hit with the daze there. Couldn't really be avoided. Job doesn't have the time to play around daze, but
that's what these days this Blue-Red Delver deck can do. It's not as disruptive as the Teamer Delver deck we saw Stephen Mann with last round, but it is very fast.
And Sheldon with another Treasure Cruise in hand, and he's not that far away from being able to cast that one too.
This Blue-Red Delver deck, from having played against it a lot with combo, I would say I like playing against it even less than I like playing against Teamer Delver. It's faster, it gets to play Treasure Cruise, it's just, it gives me even less time.
I think they have different merits in different matchups. I think Teamer is the better deck for the mirror match, which is part of the reason that maybe that deck's coming back a little bit. But against combo, I can appreciate the ruthlessness is hard to overcome.
Yeah, well, it's never the Tarmogoyfs that the combo player cares about.
Yeah.
And you have a swing. Job's not have much, and we're on to game 2.
Not a lot to be done there. Sheldon's draw just too much, too fast for Job. We'll move on to the sideboard.
All right, starting with sideboard, we'll go over to Jonathan Job. So Food Chain, not a deck. Well, what do we have out of the sideboard in Food Chain?
Some good options here. He's got a Caracas, an Abrupt Decay, 2 copies of Umezawa's Jitte, 2 copies of Venser Shaper Savant, 2 Disfigure, 2 Grafdigger's Cage, 2 Leyline of the Void, 3 copies of Duress. So I definitely like going up to a 4th copy of Abrupt Decay. I really like the Jittes in this matchup. It's possible Sheldon just doesn't expect them at all, and it's game over if it goes uncontested. And I think the 3 copies of Duress are pretty good here as well. Be able to push through Mazawa's Jitte, take Treasure Cruise in a game that's going on for a long time, force through his combo. He's got a lot of different types of cards he may want to fight over, so I like bringing in those as well.
Yeah, Sheldon Freerksen's deck does have, it has only 12 creatures in it, so there's a lot of good targets to Duress. At the same time, and I want to throw another card, I do like Disfigure out of Jonathan Job's deck as well.
Yeah, Disfigure is great. Just a cheap removal spell. We saw what happened there when the Delvers went uncontested, and anything that Job can do to slow the game down, I think helps him a lot.
Yeah, so Job, you see, becoming a little more of a control deck, but because of his high creature count, you're right, he has access to cards like Umezawa's Jitte out of the board, which are pretty good. On Sheldon's side of the matchup, this is a tricky one, I think, for him to sideboard against. I do like his copy of Grim Lavamancer in this matchup. There's a lot of cards like Deathrite Shaman, even Baleful Strix that can be really problematic that I think he'd like repeatable removal against. Outside of that, it can be hard to sideboard here.
It's worth noting that Job there really only was playing non-basics, although his list does contain a forest, a swamp, and an island. So does Sheldon go to his sideboarded Blood Moon or his 2 copies of Price of Progress? And on the other hand, is Job expecting those cards to be possibilities? Because game 1, Job was definitely throwing caution to the wind and just playing a bunch of dual lands. Post-board, if he does that again, Sheldon's non-basic hate can be really punishing.
Right.
If Job is conscientious of it and tries to fetch up his basics and Sheldon has a bunch of Blood Moons and Price of Progresses, those cards might not be effective for Sheldon. So it's going to be interesting to see that play out.
Yeah. While these players are getting ready, one thing we want to talk about is ICG Game Night. You may be wondering what the pins on our jackets are all about, and the answer is Game Night. So what this is if you talk to your local store, you can make any store's tournament game night, Star City Games game night. So what that means is Star City will bring prizes for that week's tournament. It can be any format, it can be sanctioned, it can be unsanctioned. For this week in December, the prizes that you get feature our turtle token, so free tokens and pins, and free tokens going to the players in the event, as well as these squirrel pins, which is what you've seen on our jackets. It's kind of this turtle stomping down a sandcastle. Now the turtle has creature type beast, so you can play him in a lot of different decks.
And this is the kit for December that you see in front. Star City Games sends out these kits every month to give out these tokens during the week for your weekly events. It is too late to get signed up for December, but if you want to get set up for the January kit, head over to Star City Games now, contact your OP rep, and you can always go to starcitygames.com/game night for more information.
And Job will be on the play for game 2. It does seem like this gets better for Job out of sideboard, mostly from the fact that I don't see too many things that Sheldon can board in the matchup.
There's not a lot. He has access to, a couple more light counters, which are good but not great here, the Pyroblast, the Flusterstorms. He has the non-basic land hate, which may be anywhere from game over to a dead card, depending on how Job plays the game out. Whereas I think Job is making some pretty significant upgrades. Cheap removal is good for him here. And I think the Duresses are also upgrades.
All right, well, Job will start the game on a Deathrite Shaman. He did not fetch for it, so it's not going to accelerate just yet. And Sheldon, this is the one out of his sideboard. He'll respond with Grim Lavamancer.
I don't think that Sheldon has the ability to fill up his graveyard just yet, but Job still has to respect this thing and get off the table as fast as he can. Even from no graveyard, it's trivial for these decks to go fetch land, play Ponder or something.
Aha, kill your guy.
Kill your guy. So don't be thrown off by the fact that Sheldon currently has no cards in his graveyard.
Back to Job's turn. Turn 2. Looks like he has an Abrupt Decay in hand. And yeah, look at the priority he puts on Grim Lavamancer there.
But he is on Swamp Underground Sea, so we'll have to go to plan B.
Yeah, if you try to cast an illegal spell, you're not committed into tapping the lands. The spell is not countered. It just goes back to his hand. It's given a warning.
It's effectively like he accidentally put an Abrupt Decay on the table because
like he dropped the card.
He can't even announce the spell.
What the warning would mean in a tournament like this is if, it's generally it's an innocent mistake. If you do it a lot of times over the same tournament, then a judge might wonder, then you might get the warnings can add up. And
given the nature of Sheldon's hand right now, I don't know if he can get another card in the graveyard. It's it may be better for Job to cast the Baleful Strix this turn anyway.
Yeah, Baleful Strix was the play.
Yep.
Sheldon, there's going to be some creatures right now. Interesting because they both have graveyard-oriented 1-drops. And this is interesting. Young Pyromancer was the play for Sheldon. He's going to offer a trade of Grim Lavamancer for Baleful Strix.
This is a hard trade to pass up if you're Job. As Sheldon's making this attack, you had to think that he's just got nothing going on to turn this Lavamancer on. So it kind of cuts both ways. If he's willing to attack, maybe you're not supposed to block, but I would be hard-pressed to give up that trade.
Yeah, Job declines the trade. If it was against Temur Delver, I would think, okay, my opponent has Tarmogoyfs. I need to save this Strix for Tarmogoyf. However, if it's blue-red Delver, you're right. That's a really hard trade to pass up. And I think now we see why. Job, for the turn, was going to cast Umezawa's Jite. He wanted a flyer to put it onto.
This makes a lot of sense.
But it's going to be Force of Willed here by Sheldon. He'll get a 1/1 Elemental. He'll get a card in the graveyard for Grim Lavamancer.
And now I think Job may want to take this opportunity to use Abrupt Decay on the Grim Lavamancer. You can cast it through the Verdant Catacomb and the Deathrite Shaman. And now with 1 card in the graveyard, if Sheldon can cast anything at all, that Lavamancer is suddenly taking out a Deathrite Shaman. I don't think that's a spot that Job wants to be in.
Yeah, to back up here, if Sheldon did not have Daze or Force of Will, Job would have played Jite, cracked the Verdant Catacombs, had enough mana thanks to Deathrite Shaman to equip the Jite to the Strix, connected, and used both Jite counters to take down Sheldon's entire team. It was a pretty appealing line for him, and it's why he didn't make the trade.
Yeah.
But the Force of Will did put a thorn in that plan. And I think you're right. You don't want Sheldon to untap anymore. Well, do you want to take down the Lavamancer or the Pyromancer?
I think that I like getting the Lavamancer off the table because your Deathrite Shaman is naturally going to contain the tokens being generated by the Young Pyromancer.
He's going to go with the Young Pyromancer for now. Leave Sheldon with the Lavamancer. And that actually does put the second card in the graveyard for Sheldon. He has another land at Scalding Tarn. 3 cards remain for Sheldon. 2 of them are Pyroblasts. Sheldon will not waste time. He'll go to work taking out Deathrite Shaman, exiling his yard.
I'm curious to see how that's going to shake out here for Job, because he clearly has a plan in place. He made a couple non-intuitive plays. The first one, clear cut because he wanted to get Jite on something. But
and it would have been Jite counters that turn. I think that's why he goes for it.
I think that if Job is willing to kill the Young Pyromancer there, I think it means he must have a hand good enough where he feels he can combo off. And he's worried about dying too quickly.
Yeah, time does favor Job in this matchup, generally. See, he goes for a Brainstorm. That'll be Pyroblasted by Sheldon. And Young Pyromancer, before the printing of Treasure Cruise, this was a standby in Blue-Red Delver. They played cards like Goblin Guide, Young Pyromancer. Now or rather, Grim Lavamancer. But Monastery Swift Spear knocks those Goblin Guides out of the deck, and Grim Lavamancer we don't see too much of now because it's very hard to play him and Treasure Cruise in the same deck.
And spending a mana is just a huge cost for this deck. It runs so lean on resources and spending a lot of its mana cantripping that, as funny as it sounds, having a mana lying around is not something the deck always has. Also, you know, in most constructed formats, game 1, you're trying to be as, this is the thing that I'm doing.
Right.
Push it to the pedal to the metal as much as possible. Post-board, people have more removal, games slow down, and then things like Grim Lavamancer become more palatable, even if game 1 you don't want it in a lot of matchups.
Another Baleful Strix will join the table for Job. That one will get Pyroblasted too. Baleful Strix, just such a strong card in general. You know, it ties up the ground here. Sheldon really doesn't want to shoot it with Grim Lavamancer. It has flying.
It would not be a card that would be palatable for standard level play. And, you know, in Legacy and any sort of creature matchup, it just does a ton of work.
Yeah, Wizards did a good job. They printed this in a commander set so that you could get it into Legacy. It's interesting and I think a good card for Legacy, but you never really would want to see this card in Standard.
Charlotte's Agent, much the same deal. It would be a little bit too pushy for Standard, but in Legacy, the format can tolerate it.
It's interesting because with Baleful Strix, it's not immediately present just how good the card is. But
it just does a little bit of everything.
Food Chain will be the play for Job. He doesn't have any creatures yet, but this is the namesake enchantment of his deck. If you're Sheldon, you got to know that this card's going to matter. He does have a Force of Will in hand. I don't know if he can cast it, however, or if he even wants to.
Well, this is back to the old test I was talking about. If you don't know what's going on with a card in Legacy, you should probably counter it because it's not there for no reason.
Well, I believe he has Force of Will Pyroblast, so this card just may be resolving.
Seems that way. There's still not anything for Job to do with it. No Manipulate Fates, no Griffins.
Right, so with the combo here is with Mist Hollow Griffin, right, with the card.
Yes.
So.
And it has to be a Griffin in exile, too. So
yes.
If Job casts a Griffin and it gets countered, for the time being, Sheldon's good. Nothing bad's going to happen. It requires Deathrite Shaman or Manipulate Fate for bad things to start happening.
Right, what happens is you make, every time you sack the Griffin and you get 5 mana, you recast it for 4, and now you're at the same spot, but you have 1 mana. Now, this mana can only be used to cast creature spells, but that is why you play 1 copy of Emrakul the Aeon's Torn. And now, really, 2 copies of Genesis Hydra, also good enough before they will get to the Emrakul.
And Genesis Hydra is perfect here, as you see that Gitaxian Probe revealing a Vendilion Click in Genesis Hydra, because Genesis Hydra can be good while you're setting up, and it's also a way to win the game once you've gone off. Combo decks like to have both kind of, that card is so valuable for combo decks.
Yep.
Are you trying to get going? Great. Are you already going? Also great.
And here comes an attack in from Sheldon. It's Monastery, Swift Spear, and Grim Lavamancer. They put Job to 13. The Genesis Hydra in Job's hand means he is just 1 Mist Hollow Griffin away from having the combo. And remember, that trigger, the combo is pretty safe because the Genesis Hydra X trigger, the trigger that gets the card, is actually uncounterable. He just puts the trigger onto the stack. You can stifle it, but I don't believe Sheldon has stifles in his list. I think we'll see a Grim Lavamancer from Job. Had he drawn a spell, he may have tried to click himself. It's not going to matter. That's going to be Pyroblasted again. That's the 3rd Pyroblast from Freerksen.
And now the Genesis Hydra is, if Job is able to find a land next turn, then he has the option of Genesis Hydraing for 4. If he finds a Griffin, then that's a good starting point.
Yeah, because then the Hydra's in play, it won't be infinite, it won't be a win, but it's very hard for Sheldon to get through a Mist Hollow Griffin, especially when the card can just, if it ever dies, Job can exile it to Food Chain and then just recast it.
Yeah, we know how good big things are against Blue-Red Delver and a 4/4 and a recursive 3/3. It's not the combo, but that's a good step towards stabilizing the game and giving Job the draw steps he needs to find other parts of the engine.
It is one of those consequences of Legacy when everybody needs to play cards very quickly. The creatures tend to cost 1. They tend to be efficient but small. So when you see something like a 3/3 flyer, it actually is a very large creature.
And again, with Food Chain, if Sheldon tries to kill it with a Lightning Bolt, let's say, he can just exile it and recast it.
And here we go. The draw for the turn for Job was Mist Hollow Griffin.
Here we go.
And how fortunate for Job that the Pyroblast was not spent on Mist Hollow Griffin.
Yep. So, although I think it's fine for Sheldon to Pyroblast the click.
Oh, I agree. I think it's
happening.
the right play. It's the right play in the abstract, but the wrong play for this game and how it turned out.
So Job explained the combo to Sheldon. We'll do the same. This effectively allows Job to generate infinite mana for creatures because you exile the Griffin, you get 5 mana, you can recast the Griffin. Now you have 1 floating. Sacrifice the Griffin, you go up to 6, recast, you have 2, so on, so on, so on, so on.
Every time he'll add a green mana to his mana pool, or he'll add blue, and yeah, he'll get mana every time. He gets a lot of blue mana, I believe, because he has to use blue to recast Mist Hollow Griffin. He can then get some green mana if he'd like as well.
Yep. Once you have infinite blue, then you can make infinite green, so on. You can Genesis Hydra for your deck. And then that will be Tidespout Tyrant, which can then be used to bounce all of your opponent's permanents, plus your own Genesis Hydra. And then you can go get your Emrakul from your second Genesis Hydra trigger.
Right. So what he does, he casts Genesis Hydra with X equaling 50, let's say. He got to see his whole deck. He will cast Tidespout Tyrant for free. Tidespout Tyrant enters the battlefield, and now whenever Job casts a spell, he bounces a permanent. Well, we already established that he can just keep recasting this Mist Hollow Griffin. So that's the one he'll use. He'll cast it, look like 6 more times. That'll bounce all of Sheldon's cards, and that really will be enough.
He's spinning the basketball on his finger, and it's just an issue of at what point has Sheldon had enough.
Right.
And once the combo was explained, Sheldon will let it go.
Now, question for me here would be whether or not Job has kept the Emrakul in his deck now. He got Tidespout Tyrant. It is not necessary in every matchup to actually have the Emrakul.
It's true, and if it's a flex slot, then I would suspect that it went out here because Tidespout Tyrant is enough to get it done through Genesis Hydra.
Yeah, if he had Emrakul, I think he would have chosen Emrakul there. It's a little bit safer of a win because it doesn't give Sheldon another turn.
Yeah. Although Job's slide total was high enough that he didn't have to worry about getting bolted out 1,000 times.
That's true.
I agree, Emrakul is slightly more stable.
Oh, for the record, he did set X equal to 1 million that game.
There you go. You can pick whatever number you want.
Well, so do you ever play decks with infinite loops?
I have played, the closest deck to that I've ever played was Turbo Land, which has the ability to take infinite turns.
Sure.
I don't think there's really any loop inside of your own turn with the deck when I was playing that deck, but you did get to take infinite turns.
All right, well, I'll set up a situation for you. Let's say you've assembled a Splinter Twin combo against me, and I'm going to make you do it, right?
Okay.
How many tokens are you making to attack me with? You have me dead. What number are you going to say?
I don't know, like 40. I don't like the overkill.
You don't like the overkill?
Just like to be safe.
Just something nice.
Right. Because I feel like when you say, I'll make a 1,478,000,000,000, your opponent's going to try to rub it in on you if they get the opportunity to.
Yeah, Job was nice. He said it's a humongous number. It's 1 million.
1 million's
He put all his zeros on it.
Yep. 1 million's not bad. The people who declare specific numbers that are super long, that's not for me.
I go with binary. I usually will make like 1,024.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm just not into the whole.
It's a style thing right there,
Sure. Not for me.
777.
Make enough. Make enough to
enough.
kill them. They might have a slaughter pact, so 40 is pretty safe, probably.
Right, yeah. It's it's not because though. Yeah, just one. Okay, you can pick any number. Yeah. Okay, what are you picking? You know.
Or maybe like 3 over lethal. So if they have 4 removal spells, good on them. They get another shot at it. You let them go again.
I remember back when I played a Curio Elves deck in Extended. That was one that could gain infinite life.
Yep.
And I would play against a Zoo deck, and I remember a game where I chose, gain, pause, and I was like, 220. And my opponent, at one point, he had the removal spell for my life combo on the untap. So you're untapped, he killed it. And he started being like, well, I think I can do that much damage, and played it out for 4 turns, and then kind of looked at it, and then he conceded it, because actually 220 might as well be infinite, but it's small enough that you're just not sure.
Oh, that trap has happened to me before, too, where someone gains an amount of life like that.
I gain 60.
Yeah, and it's 220, that's feasible, and it's no, it's not. It's 10 damage a turn for 22 turns. It's not. It's not feasible.
You have to actually think wait. How do you actually do 220 damage? That's a lot of damage. That's all my Wild Nacatls in play attacking for, for 20 turns. Hold on.
I like stringing them along, though. Make it a number where it seems realistic, but it actually isn't.
And we are on to game 3 here. Job comboing off in game 2. Freerksen on the play. He has a turn 1 Monastery, Swift Spear, and he's going to Jataxian Probe as well. We see what he's up against. Job's hand, 2 lands, Noble Hierarch, good start here. Baleful Strix, 2 Vendilion Clicks, and a Food Chain.
A great value hand here for Job. I mean, besides the Food Chain in his hand, everything is just a normal Magic card. The 1 main deck Noble Hierarch showing up in the opening hand, which is perfect. Baleful Strix, a couple of clicks, a very solid hand.
A Daze could do a number on him here, as the hand is a little slow without the turn 1 Hierarch. But I mean, Monastery Swift Spear in today's is kind of just good against the format when you're on the play.
Exactly, and Job has a good backup plan here of a turn 2 Baleful Strix if that happens.
Yeah, he doesn't just lose a turn regardless. He'll go for a fetch off the Verdant Catacombs. That'll be Tropical Island. And Noble Hierarch almost certainly. Job down to 17, 2 off the Swift Spear, 1 off the fetch land.
And it looks like it is sticking.
Yeah, no days there, so that'll be good for now. A Gitaxian Probe again from Freerksen. That will pump Monastery Swift Spear again. He gets some new information on Job's draw. That was a Underground Sea, so land number 3 now there for Jonathan. Draw from Freerksen is Treasure Cruise.
I don't know if Sheldon has land number 2 right now.
Not possible. He does have Lightning Bolt, so he can get rid of that Noble Hierarch. And he'll go for Brainstorm. This has a potential to be really good. It also could be really bad.
And that is the Brainstorm lock.
Yeah. He was really hoping to find a fetch land, play it, crack it, Lightning Bolt, and he would be very far ahead. But this is some unwelcome news for Sheldon.
I think Sheldon would have even just taken another volcanic island just
Sure.
to be able to follow up this turn with something. But now Job gets to pull way ahead.
Does take 3. Job drops down to 14. But you're right. He has cards like Vendilion Click. He even has just Baleful Strix, which shuts down Sheldon's attacks. For the next 2 turns, Sheldon will not be drawing lands. Baleful Strix the play for Jonathan. He draws. And Sheldon did everything he could there, sequencing his cantrips correctly to see this largest number of cards.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the only thing he could have done was just Lightning Bolt the Hierarch that turn, not go for the Brainstorm, and then be 1 card deeper with his Brainstorm the following turn. I think the upside is high enough that it's worth digging in that spot.
Yeah, because if he finds the land, and especially if it's a fetch land, he's really far ahead.
But now instead he has the option here of Lightning Bolting the Baleful Strix, which is not great, or Lightning Bolting the Hierarch and then probably not attacking. You can use a Pyroblast here as a removal spell as well. But these are not great options.
And we're back to Jonathan's turn. Sheldon's still on 1 land. He has Job down to 12, though. His deck has a lot of burn in it. And he does have some Force of Wills to hide behind, so he's got some time. There's Vendilion Click from Jonathan. Is this worth the counterspell? Job will look at Freerksen's hand. He sees Treasure Cruise, Echoing Truth. That's not one I would have expected.
I think that there may be just a little bit of uncertainty on Sheldon's side for exactly what Jonathan is up to. And Echoing Truth is a fine insurance policy against random things happening.
Certainly, I would say I've played Echoing Truth many a time. It is in a lot of combo decks, it is always boarded in, simply as a catch-all to whatever hate your opponent plays.
You're never quite sure if it's going to be good, but it's hard for the card to be a disaster. And we know that Job is playing a permanent-based strategy, so Boomerang will be fine in most games. And in some games, it'll be very, very good.
So Force of Will, Treasure Cruise. The second cruise, almost a free pitch to that Force of Will. This game doesn't seem like we'll be getting to that point anytime soon. He does take a card from Sheldon, however. He takes the Force of Will.
Well, this allows him to push through the food chain we know is in his hand. I'm not sure if that's a high priority for Job right now, but if it does stick, it makes a lot of the game much easier for him to play.
Yeah, it digs Sheldon. Sheldon, I think, is probably okay with that trade-off. He does dig him 1 card deeper. If he's going to win this game, he's going to need to hit a land. It's simple as that.
Yep.
And that dig deeper does dig Sheldon to the land. He draws a Flooded Strand for the turn.
And that was the risk of clicking Sheldon there at all, is you're giving him a fresh look.
Well, that said, Sheldon doesn't have the counterspell anymore. And if Jonathan has a full combo next turn, well, that's just fine to draw Sheldon into the land. So now with mana online, a pair of Lightning Bolts in Sheldon's hand. Job at 12. Sheldon has to weigh how much he wants to use these Lightning Bolts to push through damage versus react to a possible combo. I think he's in a little bit of a tight squeeze from those 2.
I agree. And Job is in a position to damage race if Sheldon elects to do nothing about the board. He's attacking for 4 in the air. Sheldon's taken quite a bit of damage off the Gitaxian probes already. So I think he needs to be concerned about the board to some extent.
Sheldon's going to crack the fetch land. He may just Echoing Truth the Vendilion Click and attack.
The flip side of this is that he knows that Job has a second Vendilion Click in hand.
Yeah.
So it is a little sketchy to bolt the Vendilion Click knowing that it just unlocks the other one that Job's sitting on.
Bolting it and Echoing Truthing it are more or less the same play because you know about the second one in his hand. Bolting Vendilion Click only matters if you're going to bolt all the Vendilion Clicks. And Sheldon, you see, going to bolt Mobile Hierarch here. He may just bolt both creatures.
Oh, boy.
And here's a huge punishment. This is misdirection.
And this happens with the prowess trigger on the stack. So Sheldon has to respond with 2 spells here to be able to save his Swift Spear.
Misdirection will go at Lightning Bolt. So yeah, Sheldon does. He does have another copy of Lightning Bolt in his hand. Yeah, so if Sheldon burns his second Lightning Bolt here, the Monastery Swift will become a 2-3. Then this Prowess trigger will resolve, making it a 3-4. He could save it, but he'd have to use all his Lightning Bolts to do it. And it seems like that's a price Sheldon just doesn't want to pay. But to be honest, I'm a little surprised he didn't pay it.
It seems worthwhile here. I think what this does is open up an opportunity for Sheldon to resolve a treasure cruise, because the graveyard gets stocked.
Yeah, that much is very good. This does put card number 7 in the graveyard.
And it does allow him to still bolt next turn.
Jonathan, seeing what was all exiled, that is 7 cards there. Maybe if Sheldon's worried about Jonathan comboing out next turn, which looks like what Jonathan was setting up for, then this Treasure Cruise is a really heads-up play. It gives Sheldon the greatest chance of drawing into a card like Daze or Force of Will to fight over a possible combo turn.
And Sheldon may not care very much about getting hit for 4 damage this turn and falling to 10.
If I'm Sheldon, I'm just not concerned about my own life total. I think if you're so far behind on the board that you're losing the damage race, you're probably just losing the game anyway. Here's Food Chain for Job. Vendilion Click will swing for 3. Does he have the rest of the combo? We'll see. Sheldon goes down to 11. Right now, it does not look like it is going to be another land and a Deathrite Shaman for Job. So nothing much to do yet with the Food Chain. We know his final card is another copy of Vendilion Click. Jonathan, it looks like, is on the damage plan.
Yeah. And Sheldon has boarded in the Blood Moon here, which he can't really afford to take a turn off. And even still, with the Deathrite Shaman and an island in play, Job can operate just fine.
Wonder whether Sheldon kept in Forked Bolts. If he did, he would get quite the turn right here.
In fact, the Blood Moon is way worse for Sheldon right now than it is for Job.
Yeah, he needs his blue cards. You're absolutely right.
And Sheldon can't use that Iron Mace to go get an island. So if Sheldon does cast the Blood Moon, he's on nothing but red mana.
Right, it seems like he just can't make Blood Moon here. It's going to be a damage race. Sheldon pretty far behind on the board at the moment. However, his deck is better at damage racing in the abstract. We'll see what he chooses to do here. He's going to crack Arid Mesa and go to 10. And he'll get a 3rd copy of Volcanic Island. Yeah. Sheldon at 9 right now. The Vendilion Click was exalted last turn. So Sheldon down in the race. He takes 6 a turn, 4 off the click, 2 off Deathrite. Here's going to be Monastery Swift Spear for Sheldon. It's going to attack. Seems like it would be difficult for Jonathan to block here. He could sacrifice Vendilion Click to make Vendilion Click if he wanted to here. No blocks for Jonathan. Sheldon's going to bolt Jonathan twice. That puts him down to 3.
Going straight upstairs. We occasionally see a copy of Fire Blast on some of these Delver lists, so that could have been a lethal attack.
How scary would that have been, just out of nowhere to kill him?
Well, whenever your opponent casts the non-lethal burn spell, it is cause for a sweat.
Jonathan does have some life gain available. Deathrite Shaman can gain him 2 with the Baleful Strix in his own graveyard. But not too many plays available to him. Jonathan will swing for 4 with the Vendilion Click, thanks to Noble Hierarch. Sheldon goes to 5. Both players getting dangerously low.
So if Sheldon doesn't have a way to interact with the board here, he will die, because Job can activate the Deathrite Shaman. He can, in fact, gain life with it, and then untap and attack with the Vendilion Click and activate it for damage. So,
yeah, Sheldon has an Echoing Truth to buy himself a turn in that situation. But it's not where he wants to be, that's for certain. And he'll play Young Pyromancer. Looks like swinging with Monastery Swift Spear. Noble Hierarch will chump block. And it looks like Sheldon is setting up to use that Echoing Truth. Job knows about it. And we'll untap.
and the reason that Job not using the Deathrite Shaman is out of respect for Lightning Bolt. though. You know, I think that Job eventually gets put in a position where he has to.
He has to lose to. That's lightning bolt number 4. To be fair, was 1 exiled from Treasure Cruise, 2 in the yard. He's playing around a 1 of in Sheldon's deck at this point.
And it might just end up where Job misses a Deathrite Shaman activation as a result. And both of them are really valuable right now. I just don't know how he's supposed to play around. The reason that he's passing there is because if he activates the Deathrite Shaman, Sheldon can bolt in response and kill him. So if he doesn't do anything with the Deathrite Shaman and it's still available to use, Sheldon can't bolt him.
Yeah, if there's a bolt in Sheldon's hand, leaving Deathrite Shaman up and not using it makes Sheldon's bolt no good.
The problem
or at least for winning.
The problem is, what's the plan next turn?
If Sheldon has a lightning bolt, I'm just not convinced that Jonathan wins this game, even by playing it this way. Say Jonathan attacks and Sheldon says, okay, bolt your Vendilion Click, make a 1/1. Like, are we winning now?
Yeah.
But here is a threat. This is going to be Mistallow Griffin. Jonathan has a food chain in play. We don't know his last card is Vendilion Click. So he's not going to suddenly make an Emrakul here. But it is concerned. Once you have Food Chain and Mistallow Griffin in play, the Mistallow Griffin more or less becomes indestructible. Mm-hmm. If it ever dies, instead it exiles and, well, I guess at sorcery speed recasts itself.
Yeah, Sheldon gets a reprieve from his own turn. Jonathan gets access to unlimited amounts of them on his own turn.
Certainly means that Jonathan will have plenty of creatures. We see Sheldon fetching down to 4 here. This looks like he will get another. This is with Mistallow Griffin being held on the stack.
Another path here that Jonathan could have taken with us, Deathrite Shaman last turn has used it on his own main phase last turn, so he wouldn't be caught in the position of potentially activating in response.
And what I really like here from Sheldon, he's going to Echoing Truth the Food Chain in response to Griffin, is that he has filled up his graveyard for a second Treasure Cruise, which is in his hand.
So the Echoing Truth here on the Food Chain means that if Job has a black source of mana, he can just kill Sheldon.
Well, we know the last card is Vendilion Click.
Yes, oh yeah, that's correct. Sheldon does have that information.
But you're right, Sheldon is going down to a virtual 1 here. Because he knew the last card was Click, I was a little surprised to see him Echoing Truth the Food Chain, as opposed to just Echoing Truthing. I suppose you don't want Echoing Truth the Vendilion Click. That doesn't do much of anything.
Not once Food Chain plus Griffin resolves, his hands are tied a little bit with how he uses the Echoing Truth.
Yeah. Well, even there, say with that Griffin on the stack, he Echoing Truth the Vendilion Click. Job can simply sack the Vendilion Click to Food Chain and cast Vendilion Click off that mana.
Exactly.
So that doesn't do anything.
Yeah. So I don't think it's pretty. Probably not what Sheldon had hoped for with the Echoing Truth, but once the Griffin plus the Food Chain is in play, there's not a lot to be done with the Echoing Truth. And he's got to spend his 2 mana this turn anyway. He's committed to spending it on something.
You could hit the Deathrite Shaman, I suppose. By doing this, if Sheldon has some sort of kill spell, he will get rid of some of Job's creatures.
Yeah, but then the problem is Job gets to go in response, game 2, replay the Deathrite Shaman go.
Yeah, that's not any better.
That's not very good for Sheldon either.
And Jonathan, now that Sheldon is tapped out, Jonathan will gain 2. He doesn't have to worry about a lightning bolt right there. Jonathan goes up to 5. Draw for turn from Sheldon. It's a copy of Scalding Tarn. If Jonathan wants to sacrifice it, he can Treasure Cruise for 1 mana. He may want to hold on to it, however, because it lets him brainstorm it away, and also he may just not want to go to 3 here. 3 and 4 are pretty different of numbers.
So I guess the way everything shook out here is that Job can still beat Lightning Bolt. And if that's the case, then his line of play with the Deathrite Shaman was a bit of a success.
Well, we're going to see another Treasure Cruise. 3 more cards going to come sailing into Sheldon's hand. Are they the lethal points that Bernie's looking for? Young Pyromancer, some blue cantrip, and it looks like another Young Pyromancer. That's not going to do it just yet.
No help.
Young Pyre, right now the Swift Spear is a 2/3. Ponder will make it a 3-4. Close game between these players.
But keep in mind, the Griffin has the option of blocking the young Pyromancer. The Griffin can go in front of the Monastery Swiftspear. That leaves Job with an eligible attacker next turn plus his Deathrite Shaman activation. So he is threatening lethal.
Well, John, interestingly enough, Sheldon has a copy of Pithing Needle in these top 3. He can Pithing Needle Deathrite Shaman and attack, and Job will be forced to chump the Swift Spear, and then suddenly he can't attack back for lethal because Deathrite can't activate.
That would be a pretty crazy way for Sheldon to get out of this. The needle is so strange.
He's going to do it. Yeah, this is ridiculous.
Because, you know, Job's blocks are pretty forced. I think he has to put the Griffin. I think he has to put Griffin in front.
And there you go. Pithing Needle is the play. This is the third spell. Monastery Swiftspear, a 4/5. And Swiftspear big enough that, yeah, Sheldon unfortunately has to swing his entire team. I do think Sheldon missed a Pyromancer trigger there, unless we have another Elemental coming into play. But
yeah. So he has to play the needle pre-combat. So he has a lethal attack here through Swiftspear plus token, because otherwise Job could just say, all right, Griffin in front of young Pyromancer, click in front of nothing, untap and kill you.
Right. So Job will get to eat the Pyromancer with Griffin. Vendilion, looks like Vendilion Click will chump the Swiftspear, and Job will take 1, putting himself down to 4.
So Sheldon did not find a lethal burn spell here, but the extra draw step that Job gave him did amount to this Pithy Needle, and now Job may be in some trouble.
Well, he'll get to put Sheldon to 1, but he's in danger of taking a lot of damage here. That extra elemental that missed, though, actually may be pretty relevant.
No, both of those untapped tokens came into play this turn.
Right. So he played a Ponder, a Treasure Cruise, and a Pithing Needle this turn.
Oh, right. Okay, yes.
We know Job with a second Vendilion Click and a Food Chain both in hand. His draw was a fetch land. And that's an interesting calculation in itself. Do you want to play this Vendilion Click off a fetch land? Job knows he's not going to win if it goes too late.
Job can attack here, generate a ton of mana with the Griffin, play the Click, and replay the Griffin.
So as long as it's just creature spells, he has as much mana as he wants for creature spells.
Correct.
Job's going to swing Griffin. If he wants to, he can trade Deathrite for an Elemental token here. If he swings it, Sheldon's forced to double block. But he'll just put Sheldon to 1. And you're right, thanks to Food Chain, this Misthallow Griffin, in a way, roundabout way, has Vigilance.
Yep.
He can sacrifice here for 5 blue. And his land was not a fetch, it was just a swamp, so he can leave up the Vendilion Click and do it in Sheldon's draw step. If he wants, that would actually, had he done it, it would have gotten the Ponder out of Sheldon's hand. Now we'll see if Sheldon can find those elusive 4 points of damage. He knows there's 3 blockers in play. He'll start on Ponder. That pumps Swiftspear, makes a token.
Yeah, we're back in a position where Lightning Bolt is a live draw.
Or does not make a token. And now this isn't going to work. It's Delver and 2 forces. Sheldon is going to shuffle it.
So we have 4 attackers versus 3 eligible blockers. So 1 point of damage comes through in combat, no matter what, if Sheldon attacks with everything. Meaning Lightning Bolt is still good to go.
And there's only 1 left in Sheldon's deck. He's already used 3. And we'll see the draw of Ponder. What does Sheldon hit? Mystery to us as well.
But if he can't, he's got to be able to get the Misthallow Griffin off the board too.
Yeah, swing of the team. And he drew the 4th Lightning Bolt off the Ponder. Oh my goodness.
There it is.
And if you want to talk about is this going to be a weekend of destiny for Sheldon or what? Oh my.
That was perfect.
That was the one. You shuffle a Ponder and draw your 1 outer. Well, Sheldon Freerksen moves to 6-0 here.
I mean, that was a great game. Job there.
You can see it on his face too.
Yeah, you can see there is the risk of, passing with the Deathrite Shaman there, hoping to finagle your way through a Lightning Bolt. And it amounted to a couple extra turns there for Sheldon, and Sheldon was able to find the perfect card as a result.
Oh my goodness, that is. Well, there you have it. Sheldon Freerksen, 6-0 with Blue Red Delver. One more win from your top 8. If he can take next round for Jonathan Job, it's going to feel like a match that slipped away. He goes to 5-1, but still very live here. 3 rounds left in our coverage.
That's a heartbreaker. I mean, the fourth bolt doing him in like that, but Sheldon played to his outs, and that Pithing Needle was a huge draw too.
Yeah, the Pithing Needle play really